All
What?
right, what is up, guys? Welcome back to MMA Dynasty. We are here to bring you guys the recap of Charles Oliveira and Beneil Dariush. We both got our pick wrong. We expected Beneil Dariush to finish Charles. As much as we wanted Charles to win, we just didn't see it happening. And yeah, like it didn't go down the way we thought. Beneil Dariush got smashed and got finished, and Charles Oliveira showed some improved defense because we saw him slipping punches out there. And also, his power is just nuts because he had Beneil rocked after the head kick, but he landed a couple of hooks and he was just out of it. Like Beneil Dariush tried to counter with that left hand that we were talking about before getting clipped and dropped with the final blow of Charles Oliveira. And it had no speed on it because he was just so wobbled and so fucked. And then Charles just fucked him up on the ground. And even on the ground, I have to say, Beneil was not able to nullify Charles on the ground at all. Like he wasn't able. He got outgunned down there too because Charles was doing a lot of damage off of his back. And Charles just proved that he is that guy. That he is really that guy.
But yeah, no, I was shocked. When Charles was walking out, he seemed very emotional. He was crying, and it just seemed like you could tell how much it meant to him. So maybe right then and there, we could have expected Charles to come out there and be
But I mean, dude, seeing
different.
Beneil doing the
But
same
then
thing, it
Beneil,
meant a
what I
lot to
mean?
that
Like,
guy too.
there's no way to know just yet. But when Charles pulled guard originally, it's a lot similar to the Islam one where he kind of just tried to get a trip, and then the
Yeah.
other guy was just stronger. So
Yep.
he just landed on top. At that point, I was like, okay, like this is gonna be Islam part two. I was like, all right, yeah, like you're hitting him on the ground, like from on your back, but like, why are you trying to keep it on the ground? Like this is a 3 round fight. It's not a 5 round fight. You gotta like win a round. Honestly, you do. You need to win rounds. Like if you like because if it goes to decision, they're still probably gonna give Benny that round. But again, like when I rewatched it, I saw that a lot of those punches weren't landing from Benny. That Charles was actually landing more of the strikes from his back. But still, I was just a little confused why Charles was keeping it on the ground. Like, it seemed like he could have gotten up and then he was just staying on the ground. I was a little bit confused. Um, I saw him trying to get Beneil's leg. At one point, I was like, all right, Charles may just get his leg and submit him. I was like, is this really how it's
Same. I
gonna
thought
go?
that too.
Yeah, I was like, is this
Beneil
really what
scrambled.
it's gonna be? Like, that'd be insane, you know what I mean? And then he got up, he landed a head kick, and then which he partially blocked, but like that shows how powerful that was, you know what I mean? So he was
Yeah,
a
and
little bit
so
wobbled.
perfectly thrown, like just
Yeah, it was
turned it over
perfectly
all the
thrown.
way.
Charles fucking dodged a couple, like slipped a couple left hands, which we thought would be a huge factor if they were swinging, which they were. And then he landed a right hook. Then he landed another right hook, slipped another left hand, landed the right hook on like the head, and he went down. And then at that point, I was like, all right, yeah, it's over. But the Gamby roll of Beneil was very impressive though. Like to do
Yeah,
that when
yeah.
you're hurt, it ended up being a little bit worse for him. You know what I mean? He went up right, got to his back, but still, that was impressive to know to do that when you're that hurt. But also, I noticed the head kick in he landed a head kick in the beginning of the fight too. You
Hmm.
remember like in the first like
Yeah.
15 seconds or whatever? And I
And
was like,
Beneil
oh,
countered right away. Beneil's
yeah,
he did the same thing after the second head kick too. His
no, but I
reaction
was
to
like,
those head kicks
I,
was just
I,
throw a kick back, and that
I
was not
I
good
was
for
like,
him.
oh, that could be a potential thing he could do in the next, like
Yeah.
as the rounds go on
Exchange.
or the
Yeah.
minutes go on. I was like, oh, that was a good idea for Benny. That's a good read against Benny. Like I was like, oh, I didn't think about that. Um, and yeah, Charles Oliveira, super impressive. The thing I was the most impressed though, of course, is the defense. Like at first, like when we texted after this, okay, like we were impressed by Charles, all that, but he didn't really get to show his defense. But then when we
Hmm.
watched it, we were like, okay, yeah, he actually did show his defense. He slipped a couple of strikes. So I was impressed. He used to never do that. He would never slip those strikes in the past. He just wouldn't. He seems like a little bit different. He seems to improve in the right areas. I don't think him not watching Islam fight is a factor. I kind of believe he did watch it. I think he actually did watch it. I think he was just saying that to be honest, like because he did kind of show improvements. So I feel like do you think he actually didn't watch the fight? Because I feel like he actually did.
You know, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually did, but one thing I do know is that his coaches
His
most
coaches definitely
definitely
watched
watched
it.
it.
Well, yeah,
But
his
like, yeah,
coaches.
we don't know, but you know, we can't deny Charles's improvements with the defense. I mean, just those minor things, like just moving your head a little bit, and you know, listen, he was trapping hands really well against
Yeah,
Beneil, and that's something that I didn't really take into account that heavily. It's like it's harder to trap Dustin's hand because Dustin's just a higher level striker,
Dustin's
but
quicker.
like and quicker, you know, but Beneil's left hand was the only thing Charles had to worry about. And he was really having a lot of success with trapping the hand. And then he was moving his head off the way. Like this, and you said it after the fight, like this is the guy we expected to show up against Islam
That's
Makhachev in the last one.
exactly
Yeah.
how we thought that the
Yeah.
Islam fight was going to go. When I was
Pretty much
watching
like if
that,
Islam takes him down, he's going to get, cut up with elbows and he's not going to be able to do much with it. And if it's on the feet, well, Islam Makhachev is just going to get walked down and
we
beat up.
literally, that's exactly how I
Yeah.
pictured the Islam fight was
Yeah.
going to go. Exactly. You know, we said it so many times, like, you know, Charles, like nothing against Islam. He's going to have a decent round, but then Charles will be too much and like, you know, like land on him and, you know, TKO him. We literally, at the end of the first round, I remember we literally said that. We said at the end of the first round, Charles would finish Islam. And that's exactly what happened to Benny. So I think it was actually kind of weird to see because that's literally how I visioned it. You know, I mean, that's exactly.
But let's talk about the rematch because,
yeah, let's
like,
talk. Yeah, first of all, look, I think
yeah.
Islam. I'm gonna pick Islam. I'm 100% gonna pick Islam, but I would not be surprised if Charles wins. I would not be surprised at all. I think we will see a closer fight regardless, unless Charles wins. You know what I mean? Charles wins, maybe not. But I don't see Islam doing what he did last time. Let's just say that. I think Charles will be much more improved. And if Islam does win, which I'm picking him to win, I think it ends up being a little bit different. I think it ends up being where how I actually thought Islam would win the fight in the first place. Just like, you know, the grappling and Charles going for these submissions, going for stuff off his back, but you know, not ending up ever getting it, and then the judges giving it to Islam, or Islam getting a late finish. But if the judges do give it to Islam, giving him these rounds is because he's on top, you know, Charles can't find a submission or something. That's kind of how I see it going if Islam does win, which I'm predicting him to win or just get a late round finish. But yeah, I think it's 100%. If Islam does win, it's going to be closer. You know, I don't see Charles getting like knocked down and submitted in the second round or early in the second round. You know, I think Charles will for sure have success whether he wins or loses. Like I think there will be moments where like, oh, you know, like Islam is in trouble. Like I can for sure see that regardless of the outcome of this fight. If Charles does win, how is he going to win? I think there's a couple things. I don't think Charles is going to pull guard again. I don't think he's going to go for that trip again. There's no way. It didn't work in the last two fights. He knows that. He's not going to do that.
But it's not. But like, for example, it's not like it didn't work to the point to where he just got beat up. Like it worked well honestly, against Beneil. You know, he pulled guard.
That was a good move.
He was inviting Beneil into his guard, and guess what? Who came out of that situation more damaged? Beneil.
I don't know if you could do that to Islam though. I know
you might not be able to do it to Islam, but the point that I'm trying to make is that Islam wasn't really able to do much with it either.
But Islam.
But I agree. But I at least agree in the fact that, you know, Charles shouldn't just invite him. If he gets taken down, he gets taken down. One of the things I noticed against Beneil Dariush is when Beneil would stand up, you know, and stack the guard of Charles Oliveira, and he, you know, against 99% of guys, you can just jump into side control, like around the legs. And Charles Oliveira is just so good at making sure no one passes his guard. It's like almost impossible to pass his guard.
Unless he's hurt.
So there's no way that Islam would be able to pass it. And then it's going to be nullified. I mean, it basically comes down to the feet. And I think that, listen, Islam, because you said you don't know if he'll finish him early again, and it'll probably be closer and it'll probably be more competitive. But I mean, it's going to be a KO. Like, I do not see Charles Oliveira.
Or a submission or like.
Yeah. Or a submission, yeah. But I don't see Charles Oliveira fighting Islam and being Mr. Composed and held back. Like the whole thing that he was talking about this week.
To do. Maybe that's the right.
But the thing that he was doing this week is saying that wasn't Charles Oliveira in the cage. I walk forward. I march forward. bro, Charles is most dangerous when he marches forward. That's who he is, bro.
No, he can
And
march
I was
forward
saying in the
against
lead up to this
Islam.
fight, he needs to fuck around at range. And I was wrong. Charles does best when he gets in someone's face.
So what if he marches forward on Islam, slips a couple punches?
No. Well, slipping punches is necessary, of course. But what I'm saying is, I don't think we're gonna see Charles like out at the outside of
No,
the fence.
no,
Like,
no.
yeah, he's gonna march forward and hopefully slip punches. But my point is, he doesn't fight like someone that's gonna go into the fourth round. So either Islam catches him,
Oh, okay. I know.
hurts him and submits him the same way he did last time, and that's probably gonna happen in the first 2 rounds if he wins, or Charles Oliveira does what he just did to Beneil and just wobbles him, and he's never, dude, if Charles wobbles Islam, it's done. Islam has not been wobbled since he's got knocked out. He didn't get wobbled at all. Well, he got dropped by Volk, but he didn't get like dazed. If you get dazed by Charles, considering how much power he has in his hands, the next shot is going to make it way worse. And that's how dangerous Charles is if like all he needs is one solid shot and it's over. Whereas Islam,
he's the best finisher.
He needs a solid shot and he could jump on a submission, but it's not necessarily over after one shot. You know what I mean? Whereas Charles could survive if he gets wobbled. I don't think Islam's going to survive if he gets hurt. And that's why this fight's so interesting. So. And I honestly, you know what? I'm going to pick Charles.
Honestly, you may be right.
I want to pick him, but I don't want to curse him.
I think he may win.
I think he may win, dude. I don't want to curse him, but I think he may win.
The thing about the Charles thing, I want to say, Islam is having brutal weight cuts. Brutal.
Charles is too, to be fair.
But not, no, I mean, he was one.
Come on, bro. Charles suffers big
not
time
as much
on his
as
weight
Islam.
cuts.
I mean, apparently not as much.
We don't know that for sure. I mean, Islam's never missed weight.
Yeah, but
and neither's Charles, but you know.
Yeah, but like
he did miss against Gagey. But my point is, it's not like Islam just has terrible weight cuts.
I think he does have terrible weight cuts because
I mean, he probably has bad ones, but yeah, we have no proof of them being like horrific. Like Habib.
I mean, yeah, but the thing about Islam, a few things. Charles is running up to the stage when he's doing weight cuts, you know, all happy, all that stuff. Islam is like walking super slow, like, you know, like all that stuff, like taking off his like clothes, going under the thing, crying when he makes weight. You know, Charles
is crying when he makes weight too.
No, but Islam against Volk, he was literally in like tears. And
of course, but we've seen Charles be like that on the scale like, too. Let's not act. Why are we going to erase what we've seen from Charles? Maybe he had an easier weight cut against Beneil, and maybe he's choosing to come in lighter. But it's not like Islam's had the only one who's had bad weight cuts.
I think Islam's had worse weight cuts. Also, even when he fought Charles, we heard about someone from Khabib's team is having a really bad weight cut, and it was Islam.
How do we know it was Islam?
Because he looked the worst by far at the weigh-ins, and he came in the latest.
I'm pretty sure it was like Zubaira, one of the other guys that missed weight.
I don't know. Islam doesn't have good weight cuts.
Okay, fair enough. But I think, listen, I think that it's gonna be a finish. Like this ain't going to the distance. There's no way. Okay, there's no way it goes to the distance.
You think Charles either finishes him in the first round or Islam finishes him right away?
I don't think Islam has to finish him right away. I just think it's going to be over within the first 2 or 3 rounds. 100, like it's not going past 3. I just don't see them. Dude, Charles, when he marches forward, that's his bread and butter. You know what I mean?
And Islam is going to let you march forward and counter you.
Islam is going to let you march forward and counter.
Honestly, this style is such a good matchup always. You know what I mean? Like
this fight is so good. It's like the McGregor and Conor for hardcores, like just based on the matchup itself.
This is the perfect like, you know, like stylistic matchup for both to make an entertaining fight. You know, you have a guy who marches
elite everywhere,
and you have a guy who's a really good counter striker. You know what I mean?
They're both elite on the ground, and they're different. They're like one guy's wild on the ground and wild on the feet, and the other guy's the opposite, like perfect on the ground, perfect on the feet.
This may be the most skilled matchup there is in UFC history.
I mean, everything that we were saying before the Charles and Islam 1 fight is just like, I can't believe I doubted the excitement that I would have. Saying that if Charles were to beat Beneil, I wouldn't be as excited. That's a whole load of crap. I'm more excited for the rematch
because we saw the new version of Charles. Because if Charles were to fight the way he did in the past and win, we would probably be like, all right, okay, like, you know, same outcome. But it's the fact that he slipped the punches is, you know what I mean? Like, literally the fact that he slipped punches. That's why we, you know, we're more hyped about it, because he did show that he's improved his game. And I think he's got a real chance of beating Islam. Like, I'm going to be picking Islam, but
Dude,
I
I
think
want to pick Charles,
I think Charles is a real chance. I think it's like 55,
but
45.
I'm not because I don't want to curse him. I'm worried about my curse these days because
Curse,
like
try to curse Islam.
I'm gonna do it. I'll pick him, but I'm going to tell
You
everyone
know,
that I want Charles to win, and it's not gonna be like fuck, dude. I don't want to get my pick right, and also I'm just gonna pick Islam because he beat him last time, bro. And like to be
yeah,
fair,
I mean it's a
he had
safe
more
pick.
success, and I don't know. I'm
Safe
just gonna
pick.
pick it. I feel like I don't want to. It's not fun to pick Islam. It's fun to pick
Yeah, but
Charles.
you don't want to also don't
You
want
know,
to
you
curse
know, you
Charles.
get it, the train ride when you pick Charles, the anxiety that comes with it, but like you start to believe he's just gonna fuck him up. That's what I think. I think he's gonna go in there
But
and
also,
beat
I
his
mean, every
ass.
time, like at least for me, every time I pick against Charles, he wins.
Yeah, so I'm gonna pick
Like
against him.
I picked against him for Gaethje, picked him against him for Poirier, picked against him for Dariush, and he won all three of those times. When I picked for him against Islam, he lost. Like I think I'm gonna say Islam wins. You know, I'm gonna say
Yeah.
Islam wins, and I'm gonna bet on Islam. You know, then I'll curse him even more. Because either way, I'm gonna do the exact same thing as I did in the last fight. Like with Dariush, you bet on Dariush. Charles, either way, you're happy. You know, that's literally what
Yeah.
I'm gonna do again.
Yeah.
And it sucked, you know, because I lost money, but I was so happy that Charles won. So it was a sick feeling. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm excited. I'm super excited for the matchup. I can't say I'm more excited than the first time they fought. You just can't. But I'm still like I'm almost as excited. Maybe in a way I'm equally as excited because like first fight was really good. Charles has shown improvements, and yeah, and we know how good Islam is. So maybe I'm just as excited, but I can't say I'm more excited though. You know, like
Mhm.
it's gonna be hard to be more excited because I was like that was the most excited I've been ever for a fight. So it's kind of hard to say that. But another fight, I want to actually talk about this. Like I actually wrote down something today. I was writing down my predictions for these future fights, and I actually have a hot take about a future fight. I think that Dricus du Plessis is gonna beat Robert Whittaker by robbery. That's my prediction. That's my new
Oh,
hot take prediction. I think Whittaker's gonna win the fight, but I think they're gonna rob him and they're gonna give it to Dricus. Is that crazy to think, or is that like
that
possible?
is crazy to think. There's no way that he'll make it close enough. If it goes the distance, dude, his way to win is by KO. If it goes the distance, unless Dricus du Plessis shows, listen, it's possible. I mean, Dricus
Dude,
could literally come out better than he's ever looked,
dude.
and
I
he could
mean,
actually be good.
what usually when everyone thinks someone is gonna win, they don't
Yeah.
win. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
everyone thought Beneil was gonna beat Charles.
Everyone thought that, Pimblett was going to take out Jared Gordon, and look at what happened.
Everyone thought that Jan was gonna beat Marab. Like I know
And
that's not
everyone thought Jan was going to beat Glover Teixeira as well.
yeah, and also like like everyone seems to think that Dricus has no chance whatsoever. And I think that like a lot of the time they end up winning. And you know, Sean O'Malley with I see it more as Sean O'Malley versus Peter Yan. We all thought that Yan had no chance of losing, really.
But to be fair, like you're looking at these guys,
Who are good.
Jan.
Who
Yeah, I
are very
mean,
good. Yeah.
yeah, like, but what I'm trying to say is, yeah, the guys that are beating, I don't know though, because Marab was kind of like a guy that was written off, kind of like Dricus before he fought Jan. He
Maybe
was written off.
Maybe Dricus is better than we've thought, you know, and the nose surgery is gonna help his cardio and you know, like he hasn't lost in a very long time. These guys who are on these win streaks are very dangerous. Like Whittaker's seen defeat, you know, like bunch. Not a
Yeah.
bunch, but like he's seen defeat. Like I don't doubt I could see them giving Dricus the fight if it's pretty close.
Hmm.
Oh, like because they want Adesanya. Adesanya wants new guys, and you know, a Dricus Adesanya fight sells more for the UFC than Whittaker Adesanya 3, you know, like that's just a fact. And you know how the UFC are with robberies. It's always benefits them. You know what I mean? Like Albazi versus Carl France. Carl France fucked him up. Straight up. He fucked him up and they still gave it to Albazi. How do
Yeah.
we know something similar is not going to happen?
Well, because to be honest, Albazi was not like a big favorite over Kai.
No,
Or I
I
mean,
know.
Kai wasn't a massive favorite over Albazi. It
I
was,
know, but
going to
I
be a
just
close fight. And to be fair, Kai didn't really fuck him up that bad. It was just, he won rounds, but he didn't like put a beating on him. Whereas Whittaker,
Whittaker doesn't
I
knock
just think
people out
Whittaker's too
though.
good, man. Like we've seen this time and time again. We've seen Whittaker
Peter
just
Yan was too
really,
good.
yeah, but Whittaker's different. He's not a slow starter. And this is not a grappler either. This is a striker, a guy that's going to strike with Whittaker.
I mean,
and
Sean O'Malley was a striker who, sure.
Yeah, but that's O'Malley though. That's a guy that looked slick before fighting Jan. And
Dude.
I was also saying that Jan would beat him up on the ground. I mean, of course, anything could happen, and Dricus could go in there and show enormous improvements, but he has to show enormous improvements for that to happen. That's what I'm saying. I don't think he could do that if he shows up looking like his last version.
I think he'll look better. I mean, he got nose surgery, which obviously is going to help his breathing. So
I think Whittaker's going to fuck him up because this is Whittaker's last chance to get a title
Whittaker
shot.
Should fuck him up, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I think the UFC is going to pull some sketchy shit, honestly, and they're going to rob Whittaker and
to make the Adesanya fight.
Yeah, I mean, that's the bigger fight for them. There's going to be a huge buildup, and I could just see some weird shit going on, and just everyone be like, "Oh, robbery," you know? Like,
I think that it's going. What if it looks like Vettori and Whittaker?
Then they're gonna give it to Whittaker. But
okay, so you're saying it's gonna be a robbery, but if it has to be close at least. It can't be like a terrible robbery.
No. But I think Dricus is a little bit better than Whittaker. I think he's a little bit better than Whittaker. No, than Vettori. I mean, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I think he's a little bit better than Vettori. And I think he can.
I disagree. I think Vettori's a little bit better. I think the Dricus is a little more powerful. Actually, you may have a point. I think Dricus is more powerful and it's tough to beat.
And
he's tough to knock out. He's tough. He's also really underratedly tough.
Also, all the UFC needs is to be very close, and they'll rob Whittaker. That's all they need. If it's how close Darren Till versus Whittaker was, they would have given it to Dricus.
I could see it.
You know what I mean? So like I could just see. It's a 3-round fight. Like, there's not as much room for Whittaker to separate. I know Whittaker is very good in 3-round fights. I know he doesn't start slow, but there's less room for Whittaker to show the levels, at least. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would not be surprised. I'm actually going to be picking Whittaker, Dricus by robbery. That's my official new prediction. Maybe as time goes on, I'm going to be picking something else, but I could just see it like
so. You're picking Whittaker, but you think Dricus?
I think
you're saying Whittaker's going to win. You're saying Whittaker is going to do enough to get the win, but the judges are going to rob him.
Yeah.
So he's not. So yeah, Whittaker's going to do better than him. Whittaker's going to beat him up. Yeah, but he'll get robbed.
It's not. Doesn't sound. It makes sense. You know what I mean?
I mean, it does, but like I just. I'm too confident in Whittaker.
Too much. You think he'll just be able to do too much to like even rob him?
Yeah, man. But you never know, man. I mean, like I was just confident that Beneil was going to take out Charles, but I knew Charles could finish him. Whereas I don't think that this is going to be like Merab Dvalishvili beating Jan. He's going to have to show me something he's never showed me. That's what is really relevant here. Is can Dricus du Plessis show some kind of talent that he's never showed us before? Like Merab had the cardio, but we just didn't know.
So you think if Dricus to make it close, he has to show something we've never seen before?
Well, when I say never seen before, he has to, like, Merab never showed us the kind of cardio that he had in the Petr Yan fight. He had 3-round cardio, but he wasn't like melting the floor with people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Dricus du Plessis has to just look more impressive than he's ever looked.
I think he will. I mean,
and he's never looked impressive to begin with. So.
But it makes sense for him to be more impressive because of the nose surgery. And
but his issue wasn't just the breathing. His issue was just his technique.
Yeah, I mean, he was a wild fighter, and I know. I just think that, and again, I think
looks bad when he's striking. Like he doesn't have.
I think Whittaker's going to win the fight, but the UFC, like, there's a reason they're doing this fight.
I don't think Dricus is going to have a lot of success landing. That's what I think. Like, I just don't think he's going to land that often. I think that Whittaker is just going to mess him up with the jab every time he closes the distance. And the same thing is going to happen in the Vettori fight. It's like Vettori at some point just was like, all right, I'll just survive because I can't hit this guy at all. And Whittaker would just destroy him every time Vettori would get past a certain line. And that's what I think is going to happen.
I think it's going to be, if it's a little bit close, I think they're going to rob him. That's what I think.
I don't know how you think it's going to be close though, because I mean, I could see it, I could see it, but again, he has to look amazing to make it close. You can't make it close against Whittaker unless you're amazing.
What if he?
The only guy that's ever made it close against Whittaker was Yoel and Adesanya and Till.
I mean, Till made it,
but Till was, Till is a different fighter. He's actually he's different than Dricus. He's like a guy that's also defensively sound, and plays for points. You know,
See, I could just see it clearly.
Dricus is a guy that's sloppy that goes for a KO. Those are the big punchers that Whittaker's dealt with.
I could just see it happening. Like I feel like there's a reason the UFC are giving him Whittaker. You know what I mean? It's just to give him the credibility, and I think they're gonna rob him.
Oh, of course, it's that they want a big win. But yeah.
But another prediction, I think Abus Magomedov is gonna beat Strickland.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's probably gonna get like a knockout or something.
I haven't seen this guy's fights outside of the UFC.
He's pretty good. He's pretty good.
I know. I mean, but he's also lost to some guys in the PFL from what I've heard that aren't that great. So
yeah, I just feel like there's a reason,
Abus Magomedov record.
I'm also kind of worried about my boy Ilya. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Against Emmett.
I'm a little bit worried. Because
why? Against Emmett?
Yeah, I'm worried. I think Ilya needs to do a couple. I think he needs to have more leg kick more. I think he relies too much on his hands. I think he's got to kick a little bit more. I think he maybe should use his wrestling a little bit more. And because Josh Emmett, you can't really get hit by him. You know, I know that there's like Calvin Kattar's tough as nails. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he got hit by him, but
you
don't want to get hit by Josh Emmett. He may be the hardest hitter in that division. You know what I mean? And I think it's
I mean, I've seen guys get hit by him, and you know, there haven't been many that have just gotten laid out. Like I don't think that he laid out Michael Johnson and he laid out Mirsad Bektik. But other than that, he does drop people, but I don't buy in the fact that he's just gonna KO you if he lands a right hand. He could knock Ilya out, but I think that that's very rare.
But I mean, also Ilya needs to just work on neutralizing the right hand. That's all he needs to do in a fight. Because that's what you need. Emmett just spams the right hands. You know what I mean? Like he just spams it. So if you neutralize that, you win the fight. So maybe he just neutralizes and wins the fight. Do you think he knocks out Emmett?
I would say, yeah, dude. I think he's gonna knock him out. Like I don't think Emmett's durable enough to last a full fight with Ilya Topuria.
Dude, I hope, bro. I'm a little nervous just because of how big of
and it's a main event, so it's 5 rounds. Like
Topuria
is too powerful. I think that a fight with him is not going to go to the distance, especially with a one-dimensional
try to grapple
guy like that. I would say, of course, you have to do it if it gets rough on the feet and he's getting cracked. But I would say test the waters with Emmett. I mean, Emmett is not that great. You know what I mean? He doesn't have a lot of tricks, and he's also not durable. If you start landing some shots on him, he doesn't take damage well. He starts to wilt. He starts to break. He'll show it on his face too. So I think it'd be wise for Ilya to just strike. And if you do get cracked, then of course, to grapple. But
you think Ilya, I think Ilya should also do more, like should fake shots, you know what I mean? And like show the threat a bit more, because he does have a very good overhand, right, Ilya? And I think his wrestling is also very good. So I feel like that could be a great thing to use in his game in the future. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he could scare some people, and it could really open up the overhand right for him. And he hits fucking hard. So
yeah, he does.
He'd be foolish not to start doing that a bit more. So I mean, I think Ilya is gonna knock him out in the second round, but I still have my fears. I also am thinking that Volkanovski will beat Yair. I think he'll win him by a decision. I think Volkanovski is gonna fight smart. I think you just have to trust his preparation. You gotta trust his game plan, and I don't think he's stupid enough to just strike with Yair for 5 rounds. Like I don't think he's stupid enough. I think he's gonna use some grappling, and I think he'll end up getting a decision on Yair, and destroy his face. Like Yair is gonna look like how Ortega looked, like how fucking Max looked. Like his face is gonna be brutal after Volk's beating. Another pick I have that I've written down, Cannonier. I think he's gonna beat Marvin Vettori by decision. Which, remember what I said the other week? We were talking about this. You said Vettori may win. I believe Vettori was the favorite, and now it shifted. Now Cannonier is the favorite.
Why is Cannonier the favorite?
It went from Vettori minus 150 to Cannonier minus 120.
I mean, I am definitely going to pick Marvin Vettori. I just think he's so tough, and he has higher output, and Cannonier does have a lot of power, but he's getting older. couldn't knock Strickland out. And let's be honest, Strickland was coming off of a KO loss. And I know Strickland's really good on the feet, pretty defensively sound as well. But I don't know, man. Like Cannonier is definitely a big step up in competition from the last guy, which was Roman Dolidze. Definitely a big step up in competition. But, who has Marvin really beat now that I think about it? He hasn't really. Hermanson, yeah.
On a bat,
and yeah, and then he beat Costa, of course. Jared Cannonier knocked Hermanson out in like 2 rounds, and
Cannonier I think is better than Vettori. It's more of a mid Vettori, like we got to remember who he is at heart. Like he's not a good fighter.
Yeah, and Cannonier also did have a close fight his last time out, and he did beat. Yeah, I feel like Cannonier. Actually, the more I think about it,
he should win. He's gonna win.
Yeah, Vettori's got a chin, and he's got good pace.
It's gonna be a boring ass sparring fight, and Cannonier's gonna win.
But I don't think it's gonna be boring if Cannonier actually does well, because then he's gonna land good shots, powerful shots.
We saw with Strickland, it was boring.
Yeah, that's true. Pretty boring.
He could just land the harder shots without knocking him down.
But to be fair, Marvin doesn't have the same defense as Strickland, so he's easier to hit. And that's what I'm saying. If Cannonier is able to land on Marvin more, it should be a fun fight.
I think Cannonier is going to win for sure. Another thing I wrote down, I think Poirier does beat Gaethje. I'm starting to think he does. I know that Gaethje is more motivated. I know that the altitude, but I think at the end of the day, Poirier is a dog. And I think when he gets in the cage, he's just a different guy than when he's out of the cage. And I don't think like he's the kind of guy to give up because he's made a lot of money or all that stuff. I think Poirier is an animal, and I think he has no quit in him, and I think he'll end up beating Gaethje. I think he's just going to be too good of a striker for Gaethje. The leg kicks are a factor like they were in the last fight. But I think Poirier will be able to get the decision. I think he'll be able to do just enough to win. I think it'll be a decision. I don't think it'll be as wild as the last one. I think it'll be a very good fight, but I don't think it'll be as wild. I think Poirier will win 3 rounds to 2. That's my prediction. What about you? You still think, who do you have so far?
I'd probably say the same. I think that, again, he's so good with his boxing defense at times. And he's one of those guys that gets better as the fight goes on. Like, he's not a slow starter. He's a fast starter as well. But his defense gets better as fights go on. I've seen so many clips of the Max Holloway fight back recently. Just people posting it on YouTube and showing how great Dustin Poirier's defense is. Max is like, at one point in the fight, he goes to his corner and asks his coach, like, he's doing something weird. I just can't hit him. And Poirier's like doing the shelling movements and slipping and countering. And I think I favored Dustin in a 5-round war against most guys.
Yeah.
If it's going to be a stand-up battle. But I don't think Gaethje is going to get finished. So I'm probably going to pick Dustin by decision. That I think about it, but it is worrisome that he's not training at altitude.
It is.
But Gaethje hasn't really. I don't think Gaethje
doesn't put
Dustin,
together
bro.
2 good performances anymore. Like he just.
I don't know if that's the. I mean, to be fair though, his last losses were to Oliveira and Habib. It's hard to put a bunch together when those guys are on your
Dustin
track. And Dustin. But he did have a couple of wins after losing to Dustin. He beat Cowboy, he beat Edson Barboza, so he went on a win streak. He had and Tony, so he had three good wins.
Those guys just aren't as good though.
Oh, of course, but Tony was still a good win at the time, and yeah. But I agree. I think Dustin's going to get it done.
Speaking of
now
Tony,
that I think about it a little more,
really good pick. I think Bobby Green by decision. I think it'll be. Tony will retire. I think it'll be not a terrible beating, but Tony's just gonna give the gloves, like put the gloves in the ground, all that stuff, and hang him up and just retire. So I think Bobby Green by decision. I don't think he's gonna finish Tony. Another prediction I have is Ikram by 2nd round TKO against Costa. I think I think Ikram is too good for Costa. I think Costa's fucking trash, and I think Costa will either get caught in a submission or something, or just ground and pound, or just get knocked out, like get hit by a hard strike, get knocked down, and just TKO'd like ground and pound. I just don't see Costa going to this decision with a guy like Ikram. I think Ikram's too good, too talented, and I think he will be a problem in the middleweight division. So, which Costa is not at all. So, yeah, I think Ikram easy money against Costa. By the way, and another thing I wrote down, Holland. I think he's in a second round KO. Chiesa. I think Chiesa sucks at this point. I don't think Holland's great at all either, but I think Chiesa's even worse and old and washed.
I'm gonna look up Michael Chiesa's age.
And I think Holland will just be able to knock him out in the second round.
Michael Chiesa, age 35 years old.
He's out of his. He's fucking, like he's very old. I think Holland is the safe pick for that.
I mean, Holland's not that good though.
He's not, but I think Chiesa is just holding on to his roster spot at this point.
I mean, that might be also true, but I don't know, man. I don't mind that either. I mean, a lot of these fights are tough to pick. You know, Sean Brady, Jack Della Maddalena. Now that I see Brady on the screen, that's a tough fight to pick. But I'm still going with Jack Della Maddalena.
You think so? I saw. I think bedtime. Bedtime was saying Sean.
He's picking Sean Brady.
He's picking Sean Brady.
I think so.
Really? I saw him talking about matchmaking. I saw that he said JDM versus Shavkat. Dude, if JDM fights Shavkat, Shavkat's beating the fuck out of JDM. Like straight up. Like I don't see what you guys see in JDM, honestly. I just don't see.
Have you rewatched the fights back though?
I don't like see what you got. Like I just see like a very good striker. Like I don't.
I mean, that's what we all see. I don't
like trust him against the wrestlers. Like I think he gets taken down and just gets.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Like I don't like yeah, he's a good striker, but I don't know how he beat a guy like Chimaev or Shavkat or fucking.
No, I mean I wouldn't pick him against. I wouldn't pick him against those guys if they're gonna grapple. Like I agree with you, but I just don't think Sean Brady is that great.
No, I think Sean Brady sucks, but like I don't see JDM being a champion or like very high in the division. I just without that, like maybe he has decent wrestling, but like I don't think he's gonna like it's definitely not great or elite. And I think in the welterweight division with these guys who are all very good wrestlers, you kind of have to have this very good wrestling, or else you're gonna get fucked up. So I think it's just the wrong division for him, maybe. You know, I know he can't cut down or, you know, or move up, but I just think like just it's unfortunate time for him in that being in that division. You know what I mean? So I think maybe he's gonna get in the top 10. Probably he will, but I don't think he beats like these guys like Colby, Leon, you know, like Burns, Bilal, Shavkat, Chimaev.
Maybe not now, but he is only 26.
But I don't see him being able to like narrow the gap in the wrestling. You know, like you can only improve so much with your wrestling.
Well, to be fair, that's what they said about Volkanovski going into the Islam
fight. But Volkanovski also has that rugby strength. You know what I mean? And he's just like
but Maddalena's going to train with Craig Jones. I'm pretty sure he's been getting his rounds in with Jones.
Also, Volkanovski's different, bro. He like we know this. You know, he's different.
But also, but to be fair, Maddalena is only 25.
Is he? Wait, he's 25?
You know, it's not like that's a massive hole in his game.
Jeez, he is young.
He's 26. It's not like that's a hole that a lot of people have been able to expose. Like he's had a couple times where he's gotten taken down.
Guys. He's not gone against good guys.
Well, that's the same thing as saying, you know, this guy's knocked everyone out. Wait, he hasn't fought a wrestler yet. He's just without a doubt going to get taken down. Like we don't really know if that's the case. How are we going to sit here and say that Jack Della Maddalena's weakness is grappling when we barely really seen all that much of it?
That's true. I mean, Sean Brady is,
of course, he hasn't fought someone that's great, but you could say the same thing about Hamzat. Hamzat's ragdolling guys. Wait till we actually see him fight a good striker. I mean, like at the end of the day,
I mean, wrestling at the base is different. You know, like,
true. The base definitely matters.
Having a base of wrestling is different, and he is doing it to good strikers. Like, you know, like Kevin Holland's a good striker. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's. But
Islam. I mean, Leon, great takedown defense.
I mean, he got
and good grappler overall.
He still gets taken down. You know what I mean? Like.
But he's champ. That's what I'm saying. Like, still gets taken down, but he's champ.
That's fair. I mean, I don't know, but I think the Sean Brady fight will show us a lot of what we need to know. If you could stuff some takedowns from Sean Brady, I think that would be. I don't think much about Sean Brady, but I think it would be a positive thing to still see, though. You know what I mean? I think it's a perfect fight for both guys. 'Cause if Sean Brady beats JDM, like, he's back in the running. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if he'll ever be like that great, but he still has some momentum just beating a young up and coming guy. But then if
Yeah.
JDM wins, he just beat Sean Brady, who, is like was undefeated before his last fight, and who just
Yep.
lost to like Bilal, who's pretty much the number one contender at this point. So
Yeah.
I think right now, like, Shavkat should be able to fuck up JDM just from what we've seen, just because like we know strikers versus wrestlers, how it usually goes. And maybe JDM could improve and show us that his takedown defense is very good and then could beat these top guys. But we gotta see him versus Sean Brady first. And a
Right.
couple other guys. If he beats Sean Brady, who do you think he goes against? Like, who would be a next step up? Do you put him against another guy who wrestles, or do you put him against like maybe a Jeff Neal or something?
I mean, I'd love to see. You mean Sean Brady?
Oh, no, JDM. If he does beat
Oh,
Sean Brady,
Madalena. If he beats Sean Brady, then you got to give him a top 8 guy. Maybe you're like a Jeff Neal or a Gilbert Burns,
what about a Wonder
something like
Boy?
that.
What about a Wonder Boy?
Oh yeah, I mean that's another
JDM
great
versus
fight. I'd
Wonder.
like to see that because Wonder Boy is going to fight Michelle Pereira, which should be a good fight. That's on UFC 290, or I think that might be on UFC 291. Actually,
Regardless, it's a similar timeline. So if they both
similar timeline. So I think Madalena. When is Madalena fighting Sean Brady? 290, huh?
290, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that'd be a good matchup too. I mean, it's a big test for both guys. Like this is Wonderboy versus someone with massive KO power, and this is Jack Della Maddalena versus one of the best strikers ever. So
I think that'd be a good
but
match.
Wonderboy's 40, and maybe Maddalena, if he loses to a 40-year-old, it's like, well, you're not the truth yet, because to be fair, not many people have outstruck Wonderboy, but I mean, Till was able to have a close fight with
He's
him and
also
not get
40.
destroyed.
Like,
but he's still good, man. I mean, look at
yeah,
what he
of
did
course.
to,
But I
look at
mean,
what he did to Kevin Holland.
If you're a really good striker at this point, like, you should be able to beat him. Like, if you're younger.
I don't think that's always the case
You don't
necessarily.
think?
I mean, what is a really good striker? If
Like, I
it's
think
not
Leon.
Wonderboy?
Like, you don't think Leon could beat Kevin?
I don't think Leon would have a easy fight with Wonderboy if he just struck. Like the reason Leon beats him is because he can also grapple.
Okay,
And
so you think
like
so
I don't think
JDM is
Leon
gonna,
just kickboxing with Wonderboy is gonna be able to beat him.
you don't think you'd be able to beat him?
I think he has to mix it up, is what I'm saying. Like
So
that's what I'm saying about Wonderboy. Whereas
Okay.
I don't think there's any striker in the welterweight division that could stand with him for 25 minutes and win. That's unless they KO him. But I don't think just pure striking.
So you think
they're gonna have
JDM
an
could
advantage.
maybe KO him?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. He could knock him out, but it'd be so tough to do it.
Okay. So, I mean, I think that'd be a good matchup for both guys, And then what happens with Shavkat? Like, Shavkat should fight Burns next. I think would be a good matchup in December. Shavkat versus Burns. It makes sense. I think that's
man. I want Shavkat to get a fight, but like it's
gonna
take a while.
It's gonna be Burns, that makes the most sense. Bilal, you're not Bilal, and if he wants to fight him when he's waiting around, then he can fight Shavkat. But I doubt he wants to fight Shavkat. I mean, I think he'd probably play
Bilal is gonna have to fight
the waiting game
again,
or
100%.
Wait around.
I don't think so, man, because Colby's gonna fight Leon and someone else is gonna get a big win. Like they're not gonna give Bilal a title shot if Shavkat destroys Gilbert Burns. Yeah, or they're not gonna give him a title shot if Jack Della Maddalena has 2 fights and smokes 2 guys and then beats like a Gilbert Burns too. You know what I mean? They're just not. They're gonna go with the guy that sells and that's relevant. And that's the thing about Bilal. Bilal is going to need another win, unfortunately.
Especially because the way he beat Burns.
If he finished Burns, it would be
sealed.
It would be done. It would be signed.
50-45 Burns with both arms. Like if Burns had both arms, you know what I mean? Like, and like wasn't like a one-armed fighter. Like he would have gotten it, like, but he won a decision against a one-armed Burns like that. Like, like it's horrible. It's pathetic, honestly. It doesn't look good. To like, it doesn't make the UFC be like, all right, I got to get this guy in right now against the champ. You know what I mean? Like Burns, they both had a great opportunity to do that. Like I truly believe if one of them made a huge statement, they would have jumped him over Colby.
Yeah, I agree.
Or at least
there's too much talk about the Colby fight, but
or at least keep him like the next guy. You know what I mean? Like for sure. But because Bilal like 50-45 Burns with one arm, like couldn't finish him. you can't. He's not owed anything. Like you can't owe him anything at that point. Like I don't
It's
know.
true. That's the business.
You can't just like if he's like to UFC.
Bilal
Oh
has to put himself out there to get KO'd in order to
no,
get a
but like
title shot. He basically has to fight differently.
if Bilal Muhammad is like to, if he is like to UFC, I thought I was promised a title shot. The UFC could just be like, well, you fucking took a one-armed Gilmer Burns to a decision. Like you couldn't finish a one-armed opponent. Like,
Yeah.
and that's like a valid excuse, like it really is. And so I think, I think he may get skipped upon. I think Shavkat versus Burns makes a ton of sense because who else would Burns fight? Like, what else makes sense for Burns? Unless you want to rerun the Bilal match, which I don't think Bilal would do.
Yeah.
Or the UFC would do,
No.
or maybe JDM if he does get to win Burns. But I don't know if you want to give JDM Burns yet. I think that's a little like I don't know. I think that'd be a very tough matchup for him.
It'd be a little soon.
Yeah, a little bit too soon. Maybe do the Wonder Boy matchup or Jeff Neal matchup first. But I think
Jeff
JDM
Neal is going to be a big test for
that's
him
a
too.
good fight though. That's a banger.
That's more exciting than any other fight you can make.
That's a great fight.
Other than JDM and Shavkat, one of those guys. But like,
that's a good fight. And it's good
Jeff
moving.
Neal and Jack Della Maddalena is the fight that I want the most.
We could see that fight if Sean Brady loses, Jeff Neal, if JDM knocks him out first round, that's the fight we can for sure see because who does Jeff Neal fight next? That makes the most sense for him.
Two guys with tons of power. Jack Della Maddalena has to prove to us that he's the new guard, but Jeff Neal's still like one of the best on earth.
Great chin too.
Great chin, hands of steel, like. Bro, that'd be an amazing matchup.
There won't be grappling.
Just standing and banging. But I also think that Jack Della Maddalena, one of those guys is getting KO'd.
You think
there's
so?
There's no way.
You don't think it's just like a 3-round banger?
The thing is, Shavkat doesn't have the same power in his hands as Jack Della Maddalena, he has good power. But it ain't the same.
So tough, dude. Jeff
Neal's tough, but Jack Della Maddalena hits different.
Like, so the guy is some
freakish. Yeah, he does. But we'll see. We'll see if Jack Della Maddalena has a chin. He has a decent chin, but we'll see how good it really is.
That's the fight to make, though. If Sean Brady loses, if JDM beats Sean Brady, that's the fight you have to make. That or Wonder Boy. That's what I want to see for JDM because I don't know if you want to rush a Burns fight yet because like he's only 26, so it's kind of like you could rush him a little bit too quick. Let him improve his wrestling and stuff like that before he fights these very high top guys. And then you do Shavkat versus Burns, because nothing else really makes sense for Burns at this point, or Shavkat for that matter. Like Colby's not going to fight Shavkat unless you want to do Shavkat versus Usman, which they could do. But how do you sell it to Usman? I mean, not really. Like, yeah, actually, how do you sell it to Usman? Like, it's kind of hard to sell. I mean, you actually maybe you could, but I think it's just hard to really. I think you want to make that almost a number one contender fight. And I don't know if you can give Usman another shot at Leon. So
no, not right now.
You could give Burns. You're more likely to give Burns a fucking shot against Leon than
Usman is the sacrificial lamb for Hong Kong.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like I think Burns, because Burns of also how he lost because he had one arm. Like I think like he's not.
It's not that interesting right now. It's like you got to do fresh matchups. You got to get the young guys up there.
Yeah, and I also think that the Burns, like I don't think the UFC are really like thinking about Burns as like a guy who's just like. It's like a super long road to the title now.
Yeah.
I think like him hurting his arm, just being like
couple more wins, 2 more wins, he's got the title
or
shot.
Maybe a win against Shavkat and
if he knocks a guy out like that, he's getting the title.
Yeah, like what I mean? So I don't really think it really hurt Burns that much. Like if he were to get finished by Bilal, that would be another thing. He'd be all the way in the back of the line. But because of the way he lost, like I think Burns is still in the equation. So I think he beats a guy like Shavkat. You could justify him getting a title shot. Like you really could. It's against a guy like Leon, Leon's never fought. So which would be and it would be a good fight too, because people like Burns. But I think Shavkat would win that fight. But I think that's the fight to make in like December. Like do it in December, do it on the McGregor card. Oh yeah, let's go. Shavkat versus Burns as the feature fight in the McGregor card.
I'd love to see that.
Or you could put JDM Jeff Neal as the prelim headliner.
Yeah.
Or something like that. Or for the Madison Square Garden card, or just the first fight of the pay-per-view. I like a JDM versus Jeff Neal fight at the end of the year.
Yeah.
JDM will have his 3 fights of the year, 3 fights this year. It makes sense. So unless he really takes a lot of damage from Sean Brady, but I don't, he's not going to take a lot of damage from Sean Brady.
Yeah,
Nobody takes
I don't
damage
think
from
he's
Sean
going to take a
Brady.
lot. He'll either get submitted or he'll win,
I'm excited
or
about
he'll
the
get
two
laid on
guys.
top of. But
I'm excited for JDM and Shavkat, to be honest. I think those guys are for real. I'm excited about Ian Gary too. I see him a little bit worse than a JDM. You know what I mean? Like I think JDM has the power and that kind of stuff. I don't see Ian Gary having that kind of power. Like so I don't know if
either way, these young guys at welterweight are just very exciting
they're
overall, and
cool. Who
I
do you
like
think?
it, man. Because
Who do you think?
I think about it like the lightweight division, we don't have the same. Like, when you think about Shavkat, you know that he could be a top 5 guy. Whereas Fazeev was like a guy where we didn't really know
Yeah.
necessarily, and we
Shavkat
found
because
out.
of the wrestling. You know what I mean? Like Armin
Yeah,
Sarukian, we know he could be a top 5 guy. But the lightweight division, these guys don't want to fight anybody. So it's a little bit different. Like welterweight, Gilbert Burns, a top guy. He fought Shemaev, who was number 11 at the time. You know what I mean? Bilal Muhammad doesn't duck people usually.
Charles is the one guy that's probably willing to do that.
Yeah,
And other than that, a Beneil.
Beneil Dariush. Those are the
Yeah,
two
Beneil would
guys.
love to fight one of those guys like Poirier or Gagey, and
That's
I
so
hope Beneil does well, man. It would really suck to see Beneil just never
yeah. Let's
get a
talk about
title
Beneil
shot.
for a second. Because
Yeah,
what's
I got to get going in a little bit. By the way, just
yeah,
want to
yeah,
let you know.
no worries, no worries. We'll talk about like one or two more things. Um, Beneil Dariush, I don't think that win like ruined him completely. Like I don't think it's done. Like I don't think like there's no chance of him getting a title shot at any point. Like I think he could still climb back there, possibly.
Yeah,
But he's gonna get these very tough guys, like he's gonna get an Armin Sarukian. Like he's gonna get one of those guys because he's for sure gonna get an Armin Sarukian, actually. And it's gonna be tough to beat an Armin Sarukian. But if you do beat an Armin Sarukian, like you're right back there, especially for an Islam Makhachev who's already beaten Charles Oliveira. If he beats Charles again, like Poirier and Gaethje, like he's gonna beat those guys. Then who else is available? Like
yeah, yeah. He could work his way back, but
you could.
it's just it's hard to view Beneil as like such a tough challenge for Makhachev after seeing what we just saw.
Yeah, I think Makhachev would.
And especially another Charles fight. It's like Charles shut him down on the ground, and the feet was not competitive at all. So,
Poirier,
man, I really thought that if Charles were to win, he'd have to get hurt or get punched a bunch at least. But I'm not going to be clamoring to see a rematch between Charles and Beneil unless Beneil does what Charles just did and comes back, looks insane. I hope he can come back because I like Beneil and I like his style, and he's an elite grappler, but the striking needs work.
Have to do it to an Armin
needs work
Sarukian too, which is going to be very hard.
I'd pick Beneil against Arman.
You think so?
I'd pick him. Yeah, I'd pick Beneil, man. I think that I like his chances, and Arman doesn't have like crazy good boxing, and he's not that dangerous with his hands. So I'd go with Beneil.
That's probably gonna be the next fight then. So
I'd love to see it, man. I'd love to see it. Arman's gonna get a win this weekend, and I think they're gonna make that Beneil fight. Hopefully, we see that in October. That'd be cool. Arman Beneil October or on the November card.
Yeah, Beneil thinks still
December or whatever. Yeah,
let's
just make it happen this year.
And then Fazeev's got to come back at some point too. Like
I'd like to see Fazeev versus Jalen Turner.
Oh,
yeah, that's the fight I want, man. Because Turner needs to get one of these higher level guys again. I know he just fought Gamrot, but I just hate the Dan Hooker fight, to be honest. Yeah. It's not at all.
Doesn't do any. I mean, I guess
it's gonna give him some more pop. To be fair, it will give him some more shine, and it'll give him some hype. But I feel like he's ready for these other guys. You gotta throw him to the wolves at this point.
Yeah, I think it's also because he lost to Gamrot. You know what I mean? Like I think if he were to beat, like I mean, obviously if he were to beat Gamrot, they wouldn't do that. But I think because he lost to Gamrot, like he needs like almost like a layup, just to get back there, and then you put him against.
But I wish the layup was someone else. Like I wish the layup was an RDA, or I wish the layup was a Demir Ismagulov.
Someone in the top 10, or
someone that's actually like not washed.
Yeah.
I wish it was just someone else that was better. Like I don't like to see a guy as good as Jalen Turner fighting someone as washed as Dan Hooker. Like
because we know what he can do. Like, you know, so you
I
might
mean,
as
to be fair, Hooker's lost to who recently? He's lost to Allen.
Allen and
And
Islam.
before that, did he lose? Who did he lose to
Islam
before Arnold Allen? He got beat up
by
before
Islam.
that. No, it was Dan. No, it was Michael Chandler.
No,
Oh, it was
yeah,
Islam, and before
Islam, and then
that,
he
it was
got a
Chandler.
win against, I forgot who he beat.
Nasrat Hakparast.
And then he beat and then he lost to Chandler before that. And then before
She
that was
lost to Chandler and then lost to Islam.
yeah.
I mean, those aren't the worst losses by any
But
means, but like
he
he's
still
had
lost.
wars before those losses. That's like before the Chandler finish, before the Arnold Allen finish, he also got finished by, or didn't get finished, but he got brutalized by Dustin Poirier, and Dustin got hurt in that fight too. But he also got destroyed by Paul Felder, and he won that fight, but still a war.
Mm.
I guess I shouldn't use the word destroyed, but he did get destroyed by Edson Barboza. That was like a life-changing beating.
So. Yeah, and the Poirier one too. So yeah, I mean, I think if Hooker, if Turner wins, they're gonna book him against one of those guys, like a Fiziev or Dariush, maybe. Like, I don't know if you want to do a Dariush, like maybe not, but maybe a Fiziev. I think that'd be a good fight. And then you still got Scammer out there, like, you know, scamming his way in that top 5. I don't know. I don't really care what to do with him. I mean, maybe you do Fiziev.
I mean, Gamrot's just another guy that you got to put up against Fiziev or the loser of Gagey and
I think
Poirier.
those guys will retire. The losers
or Beneil versus the loser of Gagey and Poirier. They're not going to retire.
You don't think Gaethje's going to retire if he loses?
He just beat Fiziev.
But Gaethje said this was his last run.
Well, then he will retire, but I don't think he'll retire if he loses.
And you don't think Poirier is going to like retire instead of facing a Fiziev?
Fuck no, dude. Poirier's too. They're both 34. They're not going to retire.
Really? You think they'd fight?
I mean, these guys don't. These guys are not like Habib. They're not like GSP. Like, these are the fighters that are going to be fighting for a while.
So you think
they're going to be in there till they're like 38, my man?
If Poirier loses the Gaethje, then they should do Fiziev versus Poirier. He's not like Gamrot, because Gamrot and him are friends.
Whoever loses, I put him up against Fiziev if it's Poirier, and if it's a Gagey, put him up against Gamrot or
Beneil.
Yeah, Beneil.
I like it. I just want to see Beneil get a title.
But Poirier is not going to fight Gamrot because he trains with him,
and he's not going to fight.
They're close, but he would fight Beneil.
You think he's going to fight? He already turned down a fight with Beneil.
I mean, yeah, maybe not Poirier, because to be honest, Poirier's at this point where he only wants to fight strikers.
So he's not.
He said that.
Yeah,
he's not going to do it.
We got to get those fuckers out of the equation. You know what I mean? Get them out of the.
To be fair, they're still fun at the top, but it's like
they don't fight.
We know they can't be champ, and it's the kind of hogging spots.
We need these Arman Sarukians in the top. You know what I mean? Like,
but Arman could get exposed, man. I've been thinking about that. I believe in Arman, but like, there are some levels in that lightweight division, bro. There are some levels. There's some serious levels. I mean, think about it like this. Fiziev finished RDA. RDA is a good fighter. Like, Gagey was able to do his thing with Fiziev, showed that there's a bit of a level there still. And then we have a guy like, Charles or Islam.
Who just
and a Beneil too. A Beneil would beat Gagey, probably. And then you have Charles that just ate Beneil, and then you have Islam that beat Charles.
Yeah,
then you have Volk that's just sitting at the top.
It's wild.
I'm just messing. Yeah. It's crazy, the levels.
I want to see these new guys, though. I want to see, but I want to see an Arman fighting Islam. I want to see a Beneil possibly eventually fighting Islam. Like, I don't think, like we said, like, we don't think Poirier and Gaethje aren't champion fighters. They're not championship level. Like, I don't think they have a real chance against beating Islam. Like, I think Arman Sarukian or Beneil could maybe make it a bit more interesting, and that's at least that's why I want to see it. And then there's Connor, who, if he beats Chandler, is going to get a title shot. So
yeah,
it's weird. Lightweight divisions is weird, but I'm excited to see what's to come. But great podcast, guys. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and comment lightweight matchups and welterweight matchups you want to see in the future. Until next time.